Imagine a narrow waterway in the Middle East where nearly one-fifth of the world's oil supply passes every single day. Now imagine that this route suddenly becomes the center of a major geopolitical crisis involving the United States, Iran, and Israel. Warships deployed in the sea, oil tankers stopping their journeys, and global oil markets reacting instantly. In April 2026, tensions in the Middle East escalated dramatically when the United States announced a naval blockade targeting Iranian ports. This decision triggered serious concerns about a wider regional conflict and raised fears of disruption in one of the most important maritime routes in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. To understand why this situation matters so much, we first need to understand the strategic importance of this narrow waterway. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf with the Arabian Sea and the wider global ocean. Every day, millions of barrels of oil travel through this narrow passage from major oil-producing countries in the Gulf to markets across Asia, Europe, and other parts of the world. Because such a large portion of global energy trade passes through this single choke point, any disruption in the strait immediately affects global oil markets and international trade. The current crisis is part of a broader escalation of tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States during 2026. Earlier in the year, military confrontations and rising hostilities between these countries pushed the region toward instability. According to international reports, strikes and retaliatory actions between different actors increased tensions and raised fears of a wider regional conflict. In response to these developments, Iran began using its geographic position near the Strait of Hormuz as a strategic pressure point. Iranian authorities warned ships about passing through the strait during the escalating tensions. Reports indicated that security risks in the area increased significantly, and many commercial vessels began avoiding the route. Shipping companies became cautious, and tanker traffic slowed down as ship owners feared attacks or possible military confrontations. In some cases, dozens of ships reportedly waited outside the strait, uncertain whether it was safe to continue their journey. As the situation worsened, the United States decided to take a stronger stance. After diplomatic negotiations reportedly failed to produce progress, Washington announced a naval blockade targeting Iranian ports. The decision meant that the United States military would monitor and potentially intercept vessels moving in and out of certain Iranian maritime routes. Officials described the move as a measure aimed at increasing pressure on Iran and limiting its ability to continue its strategic actions in the region. The announcement of a blockade immediately raised tensions further. A naval blockade is considered a serious military measure in international relations because it restricts maritime trade and can lead to direct confrontation between naval forces. Military analysts warned that such a move could significantly increase the risk of escalation if Iranian naval forces attempted to challenge the blockade. Iran reacted strongly to the announcement. Iranian officials condemned the move and described it as an aggressive step that could destabilize the region even further. Tehran warned that continued pressure and military actions could lead to broader consequences across the Persian Gulf. Given the strategic importance of the region for global energy supply, such warnings quickly attracted the attention of governments and energy markets worldwide. The economic impact of the crisis was visible almost immediately. Global oil prices reacted to the growing uncertainty in the region. Energy markets tend to respond quickly to geopolitical risks, especially when those risks involve critical shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz. If the strait becomes unsafe or blocked, oil exports from several major producing countries could be delayed or disrupted. This would affect supply chains and could push fuel prices higher in many countries. International reactions to the crisis have been mixed. Some countries have called for restraint and emphasized the importance of keeping maritime trade routes open. European leaders and other global actors stressed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain accessible because it is vital for global commerce. At the same time, several governments urged both sides to return to diplomatic negotiations in order to avoid a wider conflict. Diplomatic channels have also remained active despite the tensions. Some countries have attempted to facilitate dialogue between Iran and the United States in order to reduce the risk of further escalation. These diplomatic efforts highlight how the crisis is no longer just a regional issue but a global concern affecting international trade, energy security, and geopolitical stability. The Strait of Hormuz crisis also reveals a broader reality about modern geopolitics. Strategic maritime choke points like this one can play a powerful role in international conflicts. Control over critical trade routes can influence not only military strategies but also global economic stability. That is why governments, military planners, and energy analysts around the world are closely monitoring developments in this region. As of now, the situation remains uncertain. If diplomatic efforts succeed, tensions could gradually decrease and shipping traffic may return to normal. However, if confrontation continues or escalates, the consequences could extend far beyond the Middle East. Rising energy prices, disrupted trade routes, and increased geopolitical instability could affect countries across the globe. In the end, this crisis reminds us how a single narrow waterway can hold enormous geopolitical importance. The Strait of Hormuz may appear small on the map, but its role in global energy supply and international trade makes it one of the most strategically important locations in the world. What happens there does not stay there. It can influence economies, politics, and security across the entire planet.